Welcome and thank you for joining us today for Menno Haven Sets the Standard Through Food Service Centralization. It's another SAGE webinar, this time presented by Amy Carpenter, Migette Kaup, and Kris Morphis. And at this time, I'd just like our panelists to introduce themselves. Kris?
Hello, I'm Kris Morphis. I am a kitchen consultant and designer. Been in the business over 20 years. I have a food service background and just excited to be here with you guys and present a little bit about what we did at Menno Haven.
And I'm Migette Kaup. I'm an educator, researcher, and a designer. And my focus has been evaluating aspects of the built environment for senior care settings for about 20 years. And my role here on the SAGE POE team is to really focus on the research initiative of the POE process.
And I am Amy Carpenter. I am an architect with SFCS Architects in their Philadelphia office. And my career has been focused on senior living for over 20 years now.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. My name is Jill Schrader, and if you've watched many of our webinars sponsored through SAGE, you've heard my voice quite a bit. I'm usually the moderator. I am SAGE's vice president this year, and I am a senior planner and designer for Pope Architects out of Minnesota. And Amy, you said you've been working with senior housing for 20 years. I think I've got you too on that as well. We've probably got equal years on us. So yes, I am very excited to be moderating this webinar session. So for those of you not familiar with SAGE, we are the Society for the Advancement of Gerontological Environments. Quite a mouthful, so that's why we just call it SAGE most of the time. It's a membership-based organization representing and promoting collaboration between all disciplines in the senior living industry. SAGE is pleased to present AIA-approved webinars every month, and these webinars are free to SAGE members. So please just visit us at sagefederation.org for information on our SAGE membership. And I think you'll agree that with the networking and the educational opportunities, the conference discounts and more, it's $95 well spent. You'll be muted throughout the entire webinar session, but you will have an option to type in any questions by simply clicking on the Q&A button at the top of your screen. You can click on that at any time, and we'll answer those at the conclusion of the session, if time allows. Please keep your questions relevant to the topic that is being discussed. SAGE is an AIA-approved provider, and participants in this course are eligible for one AIA learning unit. And please note that you must be registered for and logged into the webinar to receive AIA credit or a certificate of completion. And SAGE will report credits earned by course attendees to AIA CES and will provide certificates of completion within 1 week if requested. Usually we're faster on that 1 week time frame. It's pretty quick, but if you did not enter your member number or request a certificate of completion upon registration, please just email us at info@sagefederation.org. We'll get you taken care of. The information presented in today's presentation is protected under copyright. And before we begin, I do want to say, give a sincere thank you to our sponsor, J&J Flooring. They have sponsored this post-occupancy evaluation from SAGE for the past 3 years, and without their generous support, we wouldn't be able to complete something like this. So thank you again from the bottom of our hearts to J&J for this. And at this point, I'm going to hand things over to our panelists who will get it started.
Excellent. So let's start by talking a little bit about our process. First, a little bit more about SAGE. As Jill has noted, we represent a multidisciplinary membership of professionals involved in various aspects of senior living and care. Our members are advocates for better physical environments for older adults that improve quality of life and sustained person-centered approaches. Our members also engage in regulatory reform efforts and encourage the implementation of evidence-based design research. In addition, we also participate in the juries for design competitions. We present educational sessions and webinars like this one, and we conduct POEs. This is our mission statement. The key, we think, is that multidisciplinary membership and the collaboration that this brings. We like to say, great minds join SAGE. So if you aren't already a member, please consider joining us. So what is a POE, or a post-occupancy evaluation? It is a process of evaluating buildings in use. We like to go in at least 1 year after a building has opened to see how it's doing. There are several levels of POE that can be accomplished, but this POE, and many that we do embark on, are focused on the lowest level, or an indicative level of POE. This involves a 1-day visit where we walk through the building, we conduct interviews with staff and residents, and we collect observations. We've been doing POEs in this format since 1999 and building a great repertoire of understanding of design outcomes. Our goal is always to have a multidisciplinary team, because each of us looks at the environment through a different lens, which results in a more complete picture. And depending on the stated goals for the project, we like to invite experts who specialize in particular areas. So for this particular POE, we have Amy Carpenter, myself, Migette Kaup, Steve Lindsay, CEO of Garden Spot Communities, Kris Morphis, who you'll hear from more later, food service expert, Keith Gray, former director of applied research, Lori Reynolds, occupational therapist from Northern Arizona University, and Russ McLaughlin, architect with AG Architecture. The next step, or really the first step in our process, is to identify a site. We target projects that have been recognized for excellence through the Environments for Aging Design Showcase. So in essence, we're targeting work that has already been peer reviewed. We're looking for projects that have clearly stated programmatic design goals, and hopefully some unique design features that we can see and then share with others who would like to know how these approaches are working out. For the past 2 years, a supplemental white paper has also been issued with in addition to the regular follow-up of the webinars that we are offering. Since we're making efforts to publish these materials, we are also committed to adhering to protocols that demonstrate that we're protecting the rights and interests of the individuals who contribute to our findings. All of our team members have completed the federally mandated training through CITI for projects that use human subjects in research. Although interviews might seem like an innocent enough method, we all recognize that any resident or staff member who participates should understand that they are under no obligation to speak with us, and that if they decide not to participate, that their relationship with their home or their organization will not be affected in any way. We also have training in knowing how to protect identities of users if they provide us feedback that might be considered critical of the setting. The SAGE POE project is an approved project through the Kansas State University's IRB Office of Research Compliance, and we are reviewed for our POE site and research team on an annual basis. Throughout the day-long process, the POE team meets with a variety of stakeholders and users. Everyone is provided with a description of the POE visit at least 3 weeks prior to our arrival, and an informed consent is collected from all individuals who participate in interviews. Photo releases are also obtained on these consent forms, so everyone you see here or throughout the presentation has given permission for their photograph to be taken and used in the published or presented materials.
Migette, I'm not sure if we have a microphone out or not, but we can't
Sorry,
hear.
sorry, my bad. Um, I'm taking over for Migette, and I forgot to turn off my mute. I apologize. So we'll talk about Menno Haven now. Menno Haven is located in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, which is in south central Pennsylvania, roughly equidistant from Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Washington, D.C. First of all, we want to thank the CEO, Hugh Davis, the COO, Roger Bynes, and the administrator, Deanna Bynes, for hosting us and being such gracious hosts throughout the whole process. Menno Haven initially had a goal of replacing their 152-bed nursing home on their campus, and then also creating a separate short-term post-acute care facility for others, long-term living on their campus. But as they were repositioning their entire campus, starting here at this new rehab building, and then moving on to skilled nursing and more, they knew they needed to build a commercial kitchen for this building, but then also saw this as an opportunity to streamline their operations and focus more on healthy living across the entire campus. So we're really going to do a deep dive on the kitchen area today. RDG Planning and Design was responsible for the architecture and interior design for this project. Jay Weingarten was the project architect, and he was our on-site guide for this post-occupancy evaluation. These were the three primary goals for the project. We already covered the first two goals in the first webinar we did back in October. So if you missed that, you can access the recording through the members only section of the SAGE website at sagefederation.org. Today, we're going to cover the third goal and do a deeper dive into the Culinary Center for Excellence that they created in this building. Another big component of this project was WELL certification. And this building was actually the first senior living project to gain WELL certification. We did cover this in some detail in the last webinar, but we're going to talk about it again, and specifically how the food service component plays a big role in WELL. So let's dive into their goals. Their first goal was to develop a culinary center of excellence. They wanted to prep and produce food for all of the dining venues on the campus in this one central location located in this new building that they're building on campus. This relates to the SAGE principle of creating and evaluating. SAGE really encourages innovative thinking, trying new approaches, and experimenting with different solutions. The secondary goal, as part of centralizing their production kitchen, was to reduce truck traffic throughout the campus. And this relates to the SAGE goal of physical safety and psychological security. By reducing or eliminating large trucks coming through the campus, it creates a safer environment for pedestrians as well as elders driving their cars on campus. The reduction of truck noise also helps reduce environmental stress. So in the center of the picture, you can see the new Menno Haven Rehabilitation Center. And this was built on an open space on one edge of the Menno Haven campus. It's along a main road that you see on the bottom of the screen. And they've really worked to create a new service entrance for the entire campus. Right now, almost all truck traffic comes to this building instead of delivering to each individual kitchen location across the campus. So it has greatly reduced the amount of trucks that they have on campus. Only milk, bread, and ice cream gets delivered to each venue directly, but those are done with much smaller trucks. This new building also created a landmark and better indicates the main entrance for the community. I mean, this is a very visually striking building. And now everybody can see, oh yeah, I turn right, either right before or right after this rehab building, depending on which way you're coming. Here's a view from my car when I was driving on the main road in front. So don't try this at home, folks. But the loading dock was set far enough back from the road, so it's really well screened. The direct view is blocked by the office building in front and cars in the parking lot. There is a truck sitting at the parking lot, but you barely notice it with everything else going on. So we think that they did a really good job at trying to hide what could be a really ugly side of the building. Let's first look at the overall building plan. So this single-story building is laid out in a long rectangular design with the building surrounding a large open-air courtyard. At the right side of the plan, or the rectangle, is the main entrance. They have administrative offices and the main therapy room, which overlooks and opens onto the courtyard. Each long side of the rectangular plan, at top and bottom, each side has a 22-bed neighborhood of private guest suites. Each one of them has their own full bathroom. And then at the left end of the rectangle is the bistro space, which serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as in-between snacks. This large space also overlooks and opens onto the large central courtyard. The kitchen and the back of house space is separated out from the rest of the building by a 2-hour firewall, which also helps to acoustically dampen any kitchen noise and I think reduce some of the smells and things that might come out of the kitchen. The main kitchen is approximately 4,400 square feet. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Kris to take us through the kitchen in much more detail.
Thanks, Amy. I appreciate it. Now I'm going to go through a few slides here, showing different aspects of the kitchen, show you how food flows through the kitchen and is delivered back to the satellite kitchens, and talk about some of the operational benefits that they chose to go with. Instead of cook serve, they're doing sous vide cooking, which is a very interesting way of going about things. And I'm going to describe that in detail. What we're looking at here is the back loading dock. We have a refrigerated box truck that will take the smaller deliveries or the speed racks to the satellite kitchens. They're getting about 3 deliveries a week right now in bulk deliveries. Right here, we're showing the speed racks as they've come back from the satellite kitchens lined up to come back to the centralized dishwash area to be cleaned and then ready for the next day for deliveries. This slide is showing the rear corridor. If you look at the loading dock on the right side towards the north end of the slide, they have a corridor that is wide enough to bring the carts and delivery pallets and store them until they can be unloaded. Double wide doors were provided to make sure that the pallets and pallet jacks could be delivered into the dry storage and cold storage. This is great for receiving product at any time of the day. They set it in place, then offload it when staff has the time to break it down, break down the product off the pallet. If you could see there, the double wide doors has an air screen above that door. That is not a requirement because there is a vestibule. If you notice on the slide, they have a set of double doors down that corridor from the loading dock. But it was, they were able to, they put this in here so they can keep the insects out of the building. So that was definitely a benefit. Here we're showing the transition in the cold storage for the delivery walk-in. If you look at the plan at the north side, the delivery walk-in is set in place up there near the loading dock. They have sliding doors that are wide enough for pallets. Staff loves this because it could stay open for deliveries coming in and out. There's a rollover threshold, which makes it easy for the pallet jacks to go in and out of the cold storage. And they made sure that the floor is level with the kitchen finished floor so that carts can roll in and out. One recommendation that I have is when you're installing a cold storage, make sure that it is always laser level with no high spots by the general contractor. This will enable the cold storage to go together with no air gaps. If this does not happen, the cold storage will not pass health department regulations and also can cause excess moisture and freezing, which could damage your box. Next, we're showing another slide of this delivery walk-in. It's, as you can see, the door is wide enough for pallet jacks to come in. It looks like we have some speed racks in here that are loaded up and ready to be delivered to the satellite kitchens. The goal was to have enough storage in here for 2 to 3 days worth of meals to deliver to other dining facilities on campus. The next slide is showing some of the product and how they store it and how it's being delivered. We'll get into how it's bagged up. Here we have some soups that are made on site with bins with ingredients and groceries to load onto carts. Each dining venue sends over a grocery list of needed supplies through their Seaboard software system. For example, bean salad, romaine lettuce, pre-cut potatoes, chicken pot pie soup, as we've shown here. The warming kitchens are provided in each dining venue. Food is finished and served. Food going from going to the satellite kitchens has already been cooked and chilled. And after delivery, the food will then get rethermed in a combi oven and served. Next slide is showing the dry storage room. Here we have specified a dry storage rack system that allows for more efficient uses of space. Dry storage shelves are all mobile and on a track to maximize the amount of storage possible. Most shelving manufacturers have this system with different options for finishes of the shelving and post. Here in this kitchen, we have a dry storage and cold storage that totals approximately 800 square feet. And to calculate the amount of square feet that you need for storage, it's the number of meals times 1 square foot divided by the number of deliveries that you have per week. Here's two of the three walk-ins and prep areas at this left side and beyond. Although not shown here, I would recommend a diamond tread wainscot at 48 inches on all exposed cold storage panels to protect the panels from damage. Carts being rolled around, boxes are being thrown around. The aluminum panels can be damaged. So as you see here, we have diamond tread just on the doors. I would recommend that you actually have a diamond tread wainscot across all cold storage exposed panels. And this location of the cold storage is ideal, and dry storage, because it is located directly off the receiving corridor and feeds directly into the prep space, as you can see on the plan. Here we have a shot of the baking area. Most baked goods are made on site at this facility. The baking prep area is producing all of their baked goods in this dedicated room where they can keep all their ingredients and equipment separated from the meat and veggie prep. This helps with airborne allergen ingredients from contaminating other foods. Although it's not completely separate, it helps minimize these issues. Let's talk a little bit about sous vide, and they chose to go this route because they, thought that this could provide a better option for them to get a better product to the residents. Sous vide, as you can see, it means under vacuum in French. It is the process of vacuum sealing food in a bag, then cooking it to a precise temperature in a water bath. Sous vide is a big part of the efficient and quality meal prep at the Central Kitchen. A one-of-a-kind large sous vide bath was purchased and installed. There are many benefits to sous vide cooking: reduced risk of contamination, healthier cooking, enhanced flavors, and is great for bulk cooking. The food runs through the sous vide bath after being prepped and bagged in an airtight bag. The food product is then frozen or refrigerated, then rethermalized later in combi ovens. Other cooking equipment in this facility includes cooktop ranges, a large kettle, convection oven, and a tilt skillet. The culinary staff here at Menno Haven is completely satisfied with the decision at the design to go this route, as it provides the best product for the residents. Next slide is showing a chef prepping meat before it's placed in the sous vide. In many cases, the chef will briefly brown the meats before placing them in the sous vide bags, along with many flavor enhancing ingredients within the bag. Next slide is showing kind of unique contraption. We got a large kettle, an agitator, and a filler. Kettles could be purchased from 60 gallons to 300 gallons, and typically soups and sauces are produced in the kettle. The filler is used to fill the bags with the product. This is great and efficient system, but the staff complains that it's difficult to clean, especially for the shorter staff. You can see that circle around a step stool. They have to get up there to get into that very large kettle. But this is a great system, and they could produce a lot of food ahead of time. If you remember that earlier slide with the chicken pot pie soup in those bags, that's what they're using to fill those bags with. Here we have some automated food machines. They are great for keeping consistency with menu items and ingredients. Food processors, slicers, food cutters, mixers can all be provided with auto options to make labor efficient and easier for food service staff. On the right side, we have the flooring. The flooring choice they went with was epoxy flooring. Epoxy flooring, it's a good product. The health department approves this floor, but in my opinion, it's not the best choice because the grit on the floor is hard to get right. If it's too coarse, then it tears up mops and leaves a film on the floor that also needs to be cleaned again. With the WELL program and a certification, they required a specific type of mop, and it just did not bode well with this epoxy flooring. It would leave a film on the floor. The other popular option, obviously, is Cory towel, but it could be expensive and grout will discolor. My favorite option is the recycled heat welded synthetic vinyl flooring that is slip resistant, which is becoming a very popular option for any kitchen. Here we have a beautiful picture of the bistro. This dining room had floor to ceiling windows, bright soothing colors. The residents absolutely love this dining space. The bistro serving is adjacent and the kitchen is directly behind the serving area. So it's very convenient for the staff to accommodate any of the residents' needs and be able to serve them efficiently. Anything that the resident need is available on 3 meals a day with snacks available 24 hours in this bistro. Here we have a little behind the serving counter in the bistro, which provides a la carte options and snacks. They have the ability to serve options on the induction warmers or custom sandwiches, hot or cold with a sandwich prep unit and convection microwave, which does not require a hood. And here we have 2 ventless options. We have an all-inclusive griddle with ventless hood and refrigeration below. And then we also have a convection microwave, which cooks sandwich, pizzas, etc. And then here we have the induction warmers for display with storage underneath and a frost top for cold salad options and soup wells. And all items are served by the staff from this bistro.
Okay, thanks, Kris. Well, let's now look a little bit about how the food service program integrates within the WELL building certification. Many of you have heard of LEED and certainly about sustainable buildings, but WELL is kind of a little less well known. The WELL building standard goes further than just the building, and it really focuses on the people within the building. It focuses on health and wellness of humans, and doing good for the environment is more of a side benefit. In essence, there are required things that have to be done and optional points in each of the categories that you see here on the screen. Today, we're going to focus just on 2 of these categories, water and nourishment. Now, you're not meant to be able to read this, but this is the scorecard for Menno Haven. WELL and RDG created a custom scorecard that worked for skilled nursing because there were certain things about the WELL standard that just didn't make sense for skilled nursing. So as a result of this collaboration, Menno Haven was the first WELL certified senior living project, as we mentioned before. And then the WELL Building Institute also made modifications to their version 2.0 scorecards that incorporated many of these concepts used here. So it's a little bit easier for other senior living projects to comply in the future. So getting to the two things we want to focus on, first is water and water quality. And of course, we know that water quality is important for everyone. And WELL focuses a lot on providing contaminant-free drinking water and keeping building occupants well hydrated for better health overall. There are a lot of testing requirements, both pre-construction and ongoing testing to check things like pH levels and contaminants like Legionella and coliforms. And this can be a little bit onerous. The staff expressed some frustration because the municipal water supply didn't meet the basic WELL standards, so they needed to add a whole building water filter. And in addition to that, each piece of equipment like coffee makers, ice makers, things like that, anything with water supply had to have their own water filter. And if you were to remove that water filter, it would void the warranty for the equipment. So the result is pretty much double filtration for all of the water that is used or gets drank in the building. The biggest frustration on that for the kitchen staff was that they felt that they really couldn't get enough water pressure in the spray hoses that they use for cleaning dishes or floors because of that extra filtration. However, I will say that staff mentioned that the water tastes amazing right out of the tap, and I thought the coffee was the best that I ever had. And I think that's a benefit of the filtration. Next, turning to nourishment. WELL encourages an environment where the healthiest choice is the easiest choice. And this comes from the understanding that diet is directly related to health, and our physical environment can strongly influence what we eat. It's also, the standard American diet is just not, it's not the healthiest diet. So a foundational component of the WELL standard is to increase access to fruits and vegetables and also provide detailed nutritional information so that the consumer has as much information to make the proper choices as possible. So at Menno Haven, all of the menus give nutritional information right on them, along with listing any allergy content like gluten, dairy, soy, etc. They also design the menu as a whole around reduced sugar content. There's no fried foods on the campus, and the menu is uniform across all dining venues across the campus. And so they're providing the same healthy, delicious food for everybody on campus at every level of care. There's also a focus on providing at least 50% minimally processed whole grains into all recipes. And education is a big component of WELL. So you'll see references like on the right-hand side, top and bottom, you see references back to the standards, the WELL standards on all of the menus. And so you're explaining to the consumer, this is why we're doing what we're doing, and helps them start making more educated choices. Healthy items like vegetables and the salad bar are displayed front and center right in front of you. If you notice here, the salty and sugary snacks are dropped down really low at knee level if you're standing at the counter. They're accessible, but not easily seen. This is kind of the reverse of what grocery stores do, where they put all the popular sugary snacks and salty things right at eye level to attract you, but put the healthier stuff at the top and bottom. Similarly, fruit is displayed, if you see on the picture on the left, fruit is displayed at the register for a more healthy impulse purchase instead of something like candy or muffins. And on the right, you see while soda is offered, it only comes in 8-ounce cans. Now, there's nothing preventing guests from taking more than one can, but when we asked the guests about this, they said, yeah, we could take 2 cans, or we could go back up and get another one after we're done, but usually we feel satisfied after just having one. So that strategy seems to be working pretty well. So in closing, what did the guests think? You know, we interviewed different groups of guests, and I should say that the residents, the people who are inhabiting this building, receiving care, the Menno Haven doesn't refer to them as residents. They refer to them as guests because they aren't living there. They're only there for a short term. So what did the guests think? They thought that the variety of food is excellent. They thought the quality of the food was excellent. They really appreciate that the food is healthy, but I think even more importantly, it tastes good too, which is, you know, always what we want. Somebody said that, you know, if I'm hungry, I can always just go and grab a snack or a drink. That's never an issue. The residents also said that they like that they can bring guests to eat in the bistro. The staff reported that they see a lot of family members coming every day for meals, and it's become so popular that they're worried that they might actually run out of room in the bistro because they need more seating. So I think that's also a testament to the food quality. The guests also said that they really like that they showed all the allergy information, but they want to have more choice and variety. One guest that we interviewed had both a gluten sensitivity and a dairy sensitivity. So he was saying, well, you know, there's really only one choice per meal that I can choose, so I have to get that. But, you know, baby steps. And then in general, they said that the service is excellent, the staff is amazing, and the food quality is just first rate. What did the staff have to say? Well, this was, you know, a bigger discussion, but I think the key here is that Menno Haven and RDG had the chef involved from the very beginning of the planning process. And this is really key because, you know, you need to tailor the kitchen and the flow of the kitchen, and everything has to work around the menu, and the chef is driving that. And especially when they were trying to do something so novel, you know, completely change their food service design, having the chef involved at the very beginning made a big difference here. And fortunately, they were able to keep the chef throughout the design process and construction process, and he's now operating this main kitchen. What they found by doing this centralized program where basically, you know, everything is cooked here and then sent out to the satellite food venues is that surprisingly they were able to reduce turnover because the chefs are only working a normal 8-hour shift, 9 to 5. This is unheard of in normal restaurants or any chef. If anybody has chefs in their friends and family circle, you know that chefs do not live a normal life. They are night owls, and they don't get the home life that most of us get. So the staff greatly appreciated being able to work a normal 9 to 5 day and go home and spend time with their families. They also found, and what was, I think, surprising to them is that they found that they were able to actually reduce their total number of staff by 3 full-time equivalents. And this was mostly done because the food production, the bulk production, was done on one shift, and they didn't need to have trained culinary staff at all of the satellite kitchen locations. Because of the sous vide and the retherm process, they have combi ovens in each of the satellite kitchens that anybody can really just, you know, you put it in the oven and hit a pre-programmed time for it, and it heats it up perfectly. I might ask Kris to layer on there because I'm sure I'm not saying it quite right.
No,
but
you're good, Amy.
Thank you. But they don't have to have trained chefs in all the kitchens because all the hard work is done in this main building. As Kris mentioned, you need to pay attention to the flooring. The staff said that they don't like the epoxy floor in the kitchen because it's really hard to clean. However, they did say that they really don't like having sheet good flooring in the dry storage rooms and pantries. They really wish that they had the same floor from the kitchen that went into the pantries and the dry storage room. So I don't know if epoxy is the right product there, or if this product that Kris was mentioning. Was there a name for that product, Kris?
Yes, there's a brand that I specify. It's called Protect All flooring. There's different brands, there's competitors to it, but that's usually the one I turn to. It's a great flooring. It has Cove bases. It's health department approved. You can run it into a cold storage, so it's seamless. It's heat welded, so there's no seams, and it's softer on the feet. It's almost a spongier material versus Corey towel or epoxy, which is very hard. And then, of course, you see in kitchens where they have mats, where you have staff, standing at a table prepping food for hours upon hours. That's very hard on the joints. So that, to me, that's a better product for a kitchen back of the house.
Excellent, thanks. And then there were a few minor items that they wished were done differently. One of the examples was there's a trench drain in front of the sous vide bath tank, and they said that they wanted that trench to be built deeper than it was because they dump 250 gallons of hot water at a time, and they didn't feel like the trench was keeping up enough with all of that influx of water. And they also said they had some challenges with the grates, that they had to replace the grates on top of the trench to make sure that the holes allowed enough water to go through fast. The other thing that they found was that the sous vide actually, it kicks off a lot of steam. So they were finding some condensation issues at the doors of the walk-in boxes, which is on the other side of the kitchen. So they added some direct ventilation from the sous vide to take that steam away, and that seemed to satisfy or solve the problem. All in all, though, the chefs were incredibly happy with this kitchen. They felt it suited their needs really well and made it a lot easier to do their jobs overall. And everything we heard from the Menno Haven staff was that it solved all of their needs and met all of their goals. So with that, I'm going to open it up for any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy and Migette and Kris. This does conclude our AIACES education portion of the course. But yes, we're not finished yet. We do have some time to go through questions you may have, and you'll see that Q&A button at the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Just click on that and type in your questions, and let's go to these questions first. There is a question that had been asked: are those quartz countertops or solid surface in the cafe? Do you know, who would know this?
Kris, do you recall?
Quartz is a good product. I believe those are quartz countertops. Typically, we would go with quartz on most serving counters. They're a good looking product. They don't scratch very easily or damage very easily in my experience. Versus, you could go with laminate, or you can go with tile, or you can go with stainless steel. Of course, stainless steel will last forever, but it's not the most aesthetically pleasing countertop for front of the house. Back of the house, it's great, but yeah, I believe those are quartz countertops that was installed there.
Perfect, that's what they're asking. And then you had mentioned, or Amy, you had mentioned that sodas and snacks were provided at all time or easily accessible at any hour of the day. Does that mean that there's a FTE dietary staff on 24/7? Do you?
I don't believe so, because the guests it's all included in their package price, so they didn't need anybody to ring them up for those type of things. It was when the rehab guests had their families come for meals, that's when the the full-time staff or the staff was needed to, because they were charged for their meals a la carte. But it was always provided for the rehab guests.
Okay. Okay. Kris, you had mentioned in one of your slides, diamond plate continuing behind, and does that include continuing behind the stainless steel countertops in that slide?
Yeah, so in this installation, there was only diamond tread aluminum wainscot on the doors for the cold storage, but I recommend putting it completely on all exposed, there you go, on all exposed aluminum panels. I mean, even behind the tables right here, it doesn't hurt because you never know if you're going to move a table or a piece of equipment down the line, 10 years from now. So I would recommend it on all exposed cold storage panels.
Okay. Next question is, had they ever used I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Amy, sous vide before, or was this a new concept?
I don't recall if they said that. Kris, do you know?
They had not used sous vide before.
Okay. It was new.
I can say that this was a custom-made sous vide bath for them, and I think they said that it was one of the largest that they've ever seen.
Yeah, it was a very large one.
I've never seen that piece of equipment before. Okay, this question is more elaborate, and I think you might need to explain how it serves the long-term care facility or the long-term care community across the way. The question is, does the commercial kitchen also serve the household kitchens? And if so, what kind of equipment is used for food prep at the non-bistro satellite kitchens?
Kris, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, so this centralized kitchen serves all the food to the satellite kitchens. What would be in the satellite kitchens is any kind of warming cooking capability. So it's delivered cold, put in refrigerators, then when ready to serve or ready to cook, they warm it up in the combi ovens. Amy touched on the combi ovens a little bit. These combi ovens are pre-programmed with all their menu items. So all they have to do is, the staff member, all they have to do is stick the food in, push a button. It has that menu item, a picture of that menu item. It has the proper amount of steam, warming, convection capability, and then it is ready to serve. There's very little prep at these household kitchens or remote dining areas or back of the house kitchens. You might have some work tables. You'll have some beverage equipment. You need backup warming cabinets and refrigeration per health department requirements for storage after the food comes out of the combi oven or convection oven. Whatever they will have there, you could do either or. And then their front of the house, dining capabilities. They'll have hot food holding and refrigerated holding for serving.
Perfect. Hopefully that answers that question. And the next question is, this one's a tricky question because this is a post-occupancy evaluation. So the team that is giving the post-occupancy evaluation represents our SAGE team. They're our SAGE team. So they're not the architecture firm that made the design or designed this building. So the question may not be able to be addressed. Amy, I'll let you decide on that. Can you talk about the decision-making process for choosing the direction of food preparation or serving logistics? Was there consideration for what future trends are looking like or what the future generations within this facility will expect?
That's an excellent question. Unfortunately, we did not get into how much they, what other things they deliberated on.
Yeah.
I know that I can say that the chef and the senior staff at Menno Haven and the architecture team at RDG did work very closely together throughout the process to come up with the design of the existing kitchen. But I can't say what forethought they put into being flexible for the future.
We do have some time, and I just got a note that the Menno Haven, someone representing Menno Haven is on this webinar. If you know the answer, please type it in to the questions and we'll read it live there. And I also,
Fantastic.
yeah, maybe we'll get the answer on the pre-planning decisions that went into planning this type of kitchen. And on that too, just so that everyone can hear this, we are going to bring forward another webinar after the first of the year, specifically on decision-making processes for commercial kitchens, and changing kind of that food delivery in these new communities. So maybe that will also help with that decision. So watch for that webinar. If there's any other questions, I'll give it a few more minutes, especially if there's a response from Menno Haven. All right, I'm not seeing any response. It does, well, that should wrap it up for today's session. Thank you all for joining us today. And thank you to our wonderful panelists for sharing such valuable information and insights. At the conclusion of this webinar, you'll be prompted to fill out a quick survey. Please provide comments or suggestions that can help us continue to provide interesting and worthwhile webinars. We do hope you can join us on an upcoming webinar, and on behalf of SAGE, thank you so much for joining us.